What's going on, you guys? So today I am concluding my series on the original objectives that come in the Armada core set, and I'm going to be talking about the basic blue objectives. I'd also like to remind you that another round of the giveaway is in progress right now. Only thing you need to do to enter is to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. So with that said, let's jump right in. We're going to be talking about the objectives in the core set. I'm only doing the blue ones today. I've already done videos for the red and the yellows, as well as articles on Crabbok.com for those. I'm also going to be covering the Corellian conflict as well. So, but not in this video. This one we're just talking about the core set. So let's jump right in. First one I want to talk about is dangerous territory. So dangerous territory is basically a points grab. You are going to be putting objective tokens on obstacles, and the second player gets a clear bonus in this one in that their ships are immune to damage when they overlap a debris or asteroid field. So that's nice. So it definitely gives the second player something that the first player doesn't have, which some are, some of these obstacles give more of a clear advantage to the second player and some of them don't. Well, this one gives a pretty good advantage to the second player, which is great. But it still has the potential for the first player to potentially turn it around and hurt you a little bit more. So one of the things that's interesting about this is that there's been a couple of erratas because some new things that have come out have impacted dangerous territory. So one thing, for example, is with the interdictors, the grab shift reroute does allow you to move obstacles, and this is in the FAQ, which also, if you want to check out the latest FAQ, you can check out Crabbok.com. I have an errata list. I have different games there. Armada has a section, links to the official Fantasy Flight latest FAQ, so you can check it out for yourself. But basically what the FAQ says is if you are running this objective and somebody shifts the obstacles, the tokens go with them, which is important with grab shift reroute. However, there's another new interaction, and that is with strategic, which is going to affect a whole bunch of these objectives. But in this one, it does point out that if you move a squadron with strategic to an obstacle that still has an objective token on it, you can actually take the objective token off of the obstacle. And while it's off, it may seem a little counterintuitive here, but I mean, it kind of makes sense. It makes sense to me, although it helps to have the clarification. While the token is off, if you land on that obstacle, it does nothing. So you kind of need the token to be on the obstacle in order to be able to take it off. Now, if for some reason it's theoretically possible to shift all of the obstacles or all of the objective tokens onto one obstacle, and in that case, if multiple tokens are on an obstacle and you do land on it, you're just going to take one off. You cannot take more than one. So that's basically just kind of the rules errata for this one that you need to know. But yes, anything else that comes out that is going to affect this stuff or whatever, it'll be in the FAQ. So always check the FAQ if you have a doubt. So when should you include this one as one of your objectives? Well, one of the things that's nice is, you're going to be gaining the ability to move through obstacles unhindered. So potentially large-based ships are going to have some kind of benefit for this because obviously you're not going to have to worry about taking advantage. If you are using something like grab shift reroute, you can potentially pull them closer together. You can potentially give yourself a shield and not have to worry about flying through it. You can make it easier to overlap and grab those, make it harder for your opponent, so you can get more victory points this way. Although this one isn't. It's not a whole lot of victory points. Like, the better advantage here, I think, is the fact that you're not going to be, taking any damage by running through objectives. And so it also allows you to fly in a way such as that, too, that you can kind of hide behind the objectives and then, so jump through them, say, surprise, I took no damage, and then shoot them. They will still obstruct your attacks, but it's nice that you don't have to worry about, crossing over them. Now, if you're the first player, when would you want to choose this one? Well, the biggest example I can tell you is Jaina's Light. If you're a Rebel player running a CR90 and you have Jaina's Light, that gives you a freebie kind of to potentially go after this one, because Jaina's Light already makes you immune to those obstacles and also makes you able to shoot through them as well. But that's definitely a one to mitigate. So you can at least get a couple of objectives easily with Jaina's Light without necessarily having to take damage on your other ships. Also, maybe if you have an interdictor and you're thinking about doing a grab shift reroute as well, I could see potentially doing this as first player because of the fact that now you can pull those objectives farther away from your opponent, denying them the ability to get some of the objective tokens. So, you can probably maybe get like a 30-point advantage that way that your opponent might not be able to get otherwise. So yeah, that's dangerous territory. Next up is Intel Sweep. So this one is also another points grab, but this one is more of an all or nothing type of objective because there's not individual tokens. It's whoever has the most victory points gets the whole thing, and it's 75, so it's a pretty big chunk. 75 is definitely a big chunk, and it's enough to make you care about it. Unlike our last one, which is only 15 per, so like maybe 30 points. It's not like might not be game breaking, and kind of depends. But in this one, I don't really see this one getting chosen that much anymore. So earlier on in the lifespan of the game, this was a bigger deal. This was a much more significant objective, especially against Imperial players, because for a long time, the only thing Imperials had was ISDs, victories, and gladiators. And typically, if you were running a gladiator, you were running Demolisher. And Intel Sweep, usually a lot of these tokens get spread out, so you would have to kind of go after some of the, if you wanted to win and you were the first player, you would have to at least send one ship out, collecting objective tokens. And that was almost impossible for an Imperial player to do. You couldn't send a victory or even an ISD out doing that. Granted, an ISD has the speed, but you're going to take an ISD out of the fight, so you were definitely going to lose if you send half your fleet point cost out somewhere else. So it just wasn't something that was feasible. So this was like Imperial players couldn't pick this one for the longest time. But now with the introduction of flotillas, it's even because everybody can afford a flotilla or two in their fleet. And so it's much easier to be able to go after stuff like this. So this one doesn't actually get picked as much anymore, but it does kind of give you, it can still potentially force you to tell your opponent, well, I'm putting my 3 objectives here close in the middle, so if you want to be able to beat me, you're going to have to send at least one ship farther away. And against certain lists, not every list uses a flotilla, so this is still a possibility to, as second player, to give yourself an extra 75 points. So when do you want to use this one? I think definitely if you've got strategic. Strategic is such a big deal with objectives, especially especially a lot of the core set objectives, which were built without strategic in mind, and so strategic has really come and changed how effective they are and how you can work with them, because you can move those tokens closer to you, make it even easier. And if your opponent does end up sending a ship after some of the wayward ones, you can potentially mess it up even further by getting there before them and then pulling them away. But yes, strategic is definitely going to give you an advantage here. Although you do run the risk that your opponent's also going to have them. Also, it's nice if you have a ship that can easily go after objectives and then get back into the fight, like a CR90 or a Raider, things like that. Those are typically good ones. If you are sending flotillas after them, you'll want to make sure that they are survivable. So, because one of the problems is you have to specify an objective ship, and if your objective ship gets destroyed, you might have a problem. So, if you are doing that, like maybe a really nice objective ship for the Empire might be a Gozanti with Minister Tua and electronic countermeasures, or for the Rebels, if you're doing a flotilla, Bright Hope, and maybe even add Major Durlin if you need to. Just make your objective ship really hard to kill. If you're first player and maybe you want to choose this one, what would it take for you to want to choose this one if you're first player? Certainly, if you have a lot of strategic and extra things to make them move extra times. So, I love just being like Squall or fighter coordination teams or even Adar Talon, things like that, to get in there, move them up really quick and start pulling objective tokens back towards you, because they're probably going to start out a little bit farther from you. So the extra movement you can give a strategic squadron, the better. And also you'll need more, because if you're first player and your opponent has no strategic, that gives you all the comfort in the world. If you've each got 2, then you don't necessarily have the advantage. Even if it's like you got 1 more than your opponent, you might not have the advantage. But if you've got like 4 strategic and your opponent has only 1, then maybe. But also if you're confident you can destroy an opponent's objective ship, like you think they're going to put it on a flotilla, and you've got maybe 4 CR90s, each with turbo laser reroute circuits or something like that, well, you know what? You feel pretty confident that you can send them a speed 4 right up in there and attacking that objective ship turn 1 or turn 2 and have it dead, and then all of a sudden they can't pick up any tokens, and then you only need to grab 2 to lock in the game. That's a possibility. That sort of strategy can be very risky, though, so you have to, usually it's very subjective based, but those are some ideas. But strategic is probably the most comfortable one. Let's move up to Minefields. Minefields is a classic. I've used Minefields a ton. It's probably, at least in the early days of the game, it was one of my most commonly chosen objectives. And because one of my favorite commanders in the game is Dodonna. And Minefields is great with Dodonna because, you can start doing face-up crits with Dodonna's ability right away. So one of the things I like about this one is you're telling your opponent where they can go, right? Where they can approach. Now, this one obviously got changed a lot when Strategic came around. This one's been changed significantly. But and that's going to influence the way it gets played now as well. So when do you want to include this particular objective? So obviously, I think it's still a good choice if you have Dodonna in your fleet, because it's an extra way to get face-up damage straight onto a ship, bypassing shields altogether. That much is awesome. So Dodonna is very good. But I think the other thing you really need to have if you're going to do this is at least one squadron with Strategic. Because granted, you're going to be able to put the mines out on the sides of the board and maybe funnel your opponent down the middle or something like that. But if they have Strategic of their own, then they're going to be able to push them back at you. So you need something to thwart that. Also, a skilled opponent may very well be able to, re-navigate around the mines and just ignore them. That's happening more and more because, when the core set came out, when the game was newer, people were still learning the finesse and the movements, and as players have become more experienced, it's become easier and easier for people to simply miss a mine. And as a matter of fact, a lot of times people would just rather hit a debris field than a mine because they don't have to worry about getting, potentially 3 face-up damage or something even worse. Like maybe you can't attack at long range on a ship that needs, to stay at long range or something like that. So it can be very, very advantageous for people to ignore, to miss these mines. And so if somebody does miss a mine and then you fly your Strategic squadron right up in there, push it right back into their path, that's just very, very satisfying. It gives you a lot more control and allows you to make the most out of these mines. And if you are running a lot of Strategic, you may also want to just put all the mines kind of closer in the middle instead of putting them on the sides. And then you just set up right in the middle. They have to kind of come to you, and as they're it allows you to react and be able to kind of build the minefield as the game goes on, it totally changes this objective and makes it into a very, very fun one. Although keep in mind you can hit your own mines, so don't put them too close. Don't be too don't put them too close to you. When do you want to choose this one if you're first player? Honestly, Strategic. That's the only time. If you've got way more Strategic than your opponent, then definitely go for it. If you've got maybe 2 Strategic squadrons and your opponent has 0, go for it. No problem. You'll be able to push these mines out of the way. There are a few things more satisfying in this game than turning your opponent's minefield back on them. That's just beautiful right there. That's just beautiful. Yeah. Let's talk about our 4th and final blue objective from the core set. It's Superior Positions. Superior Positions is objectively, in my opinion, probably the best one in the core set. The best one because of the fact that it's, I think, still the most widely usable today, the most overall encompassing. This one can be good in just about any list because it gives you a tremendous advantage of second player, as the first player has to set up everything first, and then you can totally react to everything they do. It wipes out their entire deployment advantage. However they were, whatever they were planning, they have to throw it out the window because so many games are won or lost on deployment when you first set up. If they, are thinking they're going to want to broadside you, and they set up all their, this Akbar list to go that way, and then you just instead set up behind them, and they're not going to, and maybe they can't turn around in time. It can totally throw off their plans. Or maybe you set up in front of them, so they have to fly directly into you. None of their other ships can bring their side arcs to bear on you because the setup was bad. Or maybe they just panic and they set up totally wrong, to where only one of their ships can now shoot at you. whatever the case, this one's great. So when do you want to include this one? First off, if nothing else, is really feels good, this one's always a good choice. But specifically, this one's really, really good for lists that have a deployment disadvantage. So if you've got like 3 or less ships, great option here. Or ships that are very vulnerable and need, and benefit from that, that knowing where your opponent's going to be. Like, for example, broadside lists of your own. If you know your opponent is facing the middle, well, then this makes it very, very easy for you to set up your broadside list to set the kill zone pointing right at the opponent. But also, I think because this one also has that special rule of being able to do damage to the rear hull zone of another ship, squadron heavy lists tend to be really good with this one, and it can be a double-edged sword that way. So I think that if you're going to run like a whole, you probably need intel, because you want to be able to have those squadrons free to be able to jump to the back of a ship and then attack. Rogues are also really nice because you might not always have the squadron activations or the range to be able to do it. Relay and rogue work pretty good here to get you all the way across to the rear of those ships, and also I just think a heavy squadron presence is really nice here. Very maneuverable ships. CR90s are particular favorites of mine that have a very easy way of being able to sneak around and take shots at the rear. So the rear shot scoring is a nice benefit, but definitely the deployment disadvantage and negating all of that is huge. So if you're first player, when do you want to pick this one? Well, not terribly often. But what I would suggest is if you have a list that's already suffering from deployment disadvantage, then this one may not actually give you that much of a problem at all. Like, one example might be if you're only running 2 ships and you've got a lot of points invested into these ships. Maybe 2 heavily decked out Star Destroyers with only a handful of squadrons, maybe a decent number of squadrons, but not so much that it makes up, because don't forget, you have to deploy a ship first. So that means you're deploying like almost half of your list right away, and now your opponent knows, okay, well, that Star Destroyer pointed facing this way, so now I'll just flank it. That's half of your ships, and they already know where it's going to be. So you're already going to suffer from a deployment disadvantage anyway. So choosing this one doesn't hurt you much, because you're already going to suffer anyhow. You already had to kind of set up in a very neutral, maybe central type of way, and trust that you're probably going to be doing nav, for the first 3 turns, right? Or also, if you do have a lot of squadrons also as first player, and you're confident that maybe you'll be able to out-squadron them and be able to get more hits on the rear than they can get, then this also might be a good opportunity to choose superior position, because maybe you can get more victory points than your opponent can. And nothing is better than being able to use your opponent's objective to actually get more points than they do out of it. So that's superior positions, guys. That's all of the 4 basic blues. So if you haven't already, check out my other videos for basic reds and basic yellows. I've covered all of the objectives now in the core set. I will be moving on to Corellian Conflict, so stay tuned for that. Check out Crabbok.com, the painting contest. Only 1 more day left to enter that. But there's a lot of great submissions across all FFG games. So check those out. Really, really great stuff over there. And I'd just like to thank you guys so much. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Make sure you subscribe and click the little bell for alerts so you don't miss when I start announcing some of these winners. Maybe you'll be one of them. How'd you like to win a Legion core set or get a door prize for a $20 gift card to Miniature Market? Expansion of your choice. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.